we encourage you to subscribe to MedSearch Moments wherever you listen to podcasts.
Do you have plans September 12th through 14th?
The AMSN Annual Convention is the can't-miss event for medical surgical nurses.
Register now to join AMSN in Toronto, September 12th through 14th, 2024.
And prepare to connect with hundreds of peers for 3 days of learning the latest insights, trends, and best practices in the specialty.
Visit amsn.org to secure your spot.
On this episode of MedSurg Moments,
as a med-surg nurse a couple of years ago, I actually experienced an episode of severe burnout, and it snuck up on me. I was the manager on the unit. I had a child in middle school who was going through a lot of emotional problems. I was having some marital problems and just little things at work I could not say no to. I felt like I had
this is Eric,
Mary Tess,
Sydney, Sam,
Neil,
and Laura. Welcome to MedSurg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
we're proud MedSurg nurses just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey.
Our topic today is nursing wellness, but before we start, we're excited to welcome back to the show a very special guest co-host, AMSN President Marisa Streelman.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Why don't you get us started with a personal update and an AMSN update?
I'm getting ready to head out on a family vacation next week. We do this every 2 years, and it's a big vacation for my family. And my sister from Denver comes over once every 2 years, and my brother and my other sister from up north in Michigan. There's a total of 18 of us this year, and we'll all be at one location on Lake Michigan, right on the water, which is lovely. It's a place that we have gone to since we were little kids, and so there's a lot of memories there for us. Our grandpa used to have a boat there. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, and just sharing those memories now with my kids. We enjoy the water, the waves, and just total family time. All the cousins get to play together, and we as siblings just get to talk and just be together and try not to stress out too much and just have a great time. It's my little personal update. For AMSN, we got some big things on the horizon. The first thing being our annual convention is coming up in Toronto, Canada. We have a great lineup of speakers. We have our keynote, Lee Rubin. He's a wonderful speaker to start off our convention. And then we have Dr. Ernest Grant, who's the former ANA president. And he is our AMSN Founder Award recipient this year. And our closing speaker is Donna Cardillo, who is just a lovely nurse humorist. So we're excited to have them with us. We have our concurrent sessions. We have new rapid fire sessions this year, which should be fun. And then our annual town hall, where we will be looking at our med-surg nurses as change agents. So call out to any listeners that we might have, because this is our first international convention that we have just over the border there to the north. So if we have any listeners that might be on the fence to going, or if we have any listeners in Toronto or in Ontario that would be nearby that are considering going, we'd love you guys to register today. So we're just a few weeks out now, about 6 weeks out from our convention. One other thing to mention is the AMSN board has been working on our new strategic plan, which will be going from 2025 to 2028. And we're going to be having that finalized very shortly. We really work on our strategic plan to help set and align our priorities for AMSN. And that really helps guide our committees, our board, and really looking at the overarching work that we're doing over the next few years to help meet our different targets that we have for AMSN. So look for that coming early 2025, and that's kind of the major things in the works right now for AMSN.
A lot of exciting stuff.
So what's going on with everyone else?
Thanks for sharing about your family vacation. I actually just completed my family vacation. So it was a trip from Texas to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. It was me and my husband, my sister and her husband, and then my brother and his wife drove down from Pennsylvania. So we all met at a house in North Carolina. So much fun. No hurricanes. I don't know if anybody was listening last time, but my husband was very focused on the weather out there. So we had no hurricanes. We had a couple of days of rain and a little bit of flooding. There's a lot of traffic in Outer Banks when it's raining and flooding. One day there was even an accident that blocked the one highway. So it turned a 2-hour drive into a 6-hour drive. So that was not so exciting. But outside of that, we had a great time. The beach was beautiful. The water was amazing. And just a lot of time to visit and connect with our family. So that was a lot of fun. Sam, what about you?
Well, I'm now like 6 weeks back at work, so pretty well back in the full swing of things and all of the chaos that comes along with nursing education and professional development sometimes. So we are knee deep in 2 pretty big nurse residency cohorts. So got a lot of involvement in that, which is nice. And then we're also exploring and trying to investigate a little bit more about an experienced nurse fellowship, because we have a lot of nurses that come in looking to work in like an acute care med-surg type setting, but don't have experience in that area. And sometimes we're having some difficulties getting them to complete their orientation and be successful and thriving. So we're kind of investigating that, which has been fun. We've been meeting with some other organizations that do that and trying to get some ideas of where we would want to go with our program. So that's kind of the work side. And then little Theo, you guys have heard about a lot. He's now just a little bit over 4 months old, which is crazy. He's just changed so much. We got the go-ahead last week that he can start solid, so that has been a fun adventure. He had some watermelon on the boat over the weekend, and it was so much fun to watch him taste things and explore, and it's like every day taking pictures. Oh, yes. Lots of pictures. It's so fun at this stage. It just feels like every day he's just conducting different science experiments to like figure out the world, and it's so great. But that's about it for me. That's all that's been going on. Eric, we missed you last time. We're so glad you're here.
Yeah, I missed last time, but welcome back to you, Sam. Congratulations.
Thank
in person on the baby. Adorable. I missed last time because I had my surgery that day. I had to go back in, clean up a couple of things, take out some screws here and there. Nothing really exciting. You know what I decided? I don't want my life on AMSN to be my surgery. I'm moving on from my surgery. I liked hearing about Laura and Marisa family time and vacation. I always find it interesting because I just spent the last month avoiding my family. So I always enjoyed the other swing of it. I'm looking at schools. Like I said, last time I was looking at advancing my nursing career. And that's pretty much it. I've been pretty low key, just kind of hanging out. I'm sure it'll be more exciting next week.
We are proud of you for making that decision.
Well, let's see what happens next
semester.
Are you still on couch rest after the second surgery, or can you get up now?
So what happened was they had to take out the screws because I just couldn't handle it. And every time I took a step, it felt like I was being electrocuted. And it was the worst feeling. It was so bad. But I can tell now. Now it just hurts from, being cut open, but it feels so much better. So fingers crossed that I get back to work sometime this year.
Yeah, well, it seems like that was a step in the right direction, at least.
Yeah. It'd be nice if I can be healed up before the convention. It'd be nice to get to Toronto.
Yes.
That's a good goal.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. I've never traveled, but I thought, why not? I mean, not why not? Yeah. I mean, it's exciting, but I mean, cross that hurdle.
Do you have a passport?
No.
That might be a good place to start.
Yes, absolutely.
You need a passport, and those take a few weeks, so you might want to do that first.
Well, that's something you can work on the couch as your application, your passport application.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Sydney?
Not much new going on with me. Starting to get ready to actually move back to the States. I have an official flyback date, so I'll be heading back to the States sometime in October to my new posting, which I'll share later in the future. Other than that, it's just starting to take pictures down, patch holes in the walls in my apartment, things like that. Going through all my belongings so that I'm not shipping everything back with me that doesn't need to come. So little things like that. But why don't we move on to our topic, nursing wellness. something that's truly important to each and every med-surg nurse. Who would like to get the conversation started?
I can get started. As a med-surg nurse a couple of years ago, I actually experienced an episode of severe burnout, and it snuck up on me. I was the manager on the unit. I had a child in middle school who was going through a lot of emotional problems. I was having some marital problems and just little things at work I could not say no to. I felt like I had to fix everything on the unit. If somebody needed help, I was not going to say no. I did everything I could to make sure that my nurses were taken care of. A shift needed to be covered, I was there covering it, even if it wasn't the night shift, if it was on the weekends. I was answering phone calls from my staff in the middle of the night. I could not say no. I think it was easy to bury myself in my work because I felt competent there when everything in my personal life seemed to be just hitting barrier after barrier after barrier, and I threw myself into work. It took so much out of me that one day I woke up and I did not recognize who I was. I had to take some time off. I actually had to take a leave of absence from work and pay attention to myself. You can only ignore it for so long, and if you don't take care of it, your body's going to make the decision for you. It was a really, really, really hard pill to swallow, and it was really hard asking for help and recognizing that I needed help. I was gone from work for about 3 months. And when I came back, I felt like a whole new person. I learned how to set boundaries. I learned how to say no. I learned how to recognize that I can't be the one to save everybody, even though everybody can rely on me. I want to be supportive of you, but when I have to say no, I'm saying no because I have to. I have to think about what's more important. And it was a really, really, really hard lesson. But I feel so much better. And the things that I learned during that time have served me well for the last couple of years.
Wow, thanks for sharing that, Laura. Hearing stories like that, and there's such a large spectrum of nursing burnout. Sometimes it's compassion fatigue, you hear that a lot, all the way down to like true nurse burnout where people have to get out from positions or leave the profession entirely. When I've heard stories like that, it's made me reflect a lot and consider things that I can do better to be more proactive to prevent myself from getting into those places too.
Yeah, it's important to figure out what are the things that fill you back up. You've got to find time for these family vacations. You've got to find time for going outside, walking your dog, listening to music, whatever it is that brings you joy. It seems insignificant compared to the responsibilities that we all have. But it's so important. It's so important to take time to go do those things.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think it's very interesting. There are people who I work with who are very much like, oh, I have so much time off. I'm losing time off. I have so much time off. I'm like, why aren't you using this time off? It's not a badge to wear on my sleeve. Like, oh, I have so much time off. I'm losing it. Like, what? I don't understand that. I use my time off. I use it. I like to use it. It keeps me balanced. It keeps my home life balanced. I have 3 kids. Kids know who I am. For me, it's very important to be available to them. I'm in a more informal leadership position. So it's not a very formal, like you were talking about, nurse manager. I was a nurse manager for 12 years. And so I understand where you're coming from, where you feel like, I have to be that person. I was at a point where I had to feel like I was not doing the best at every position. I'm not being a good mom. I'm not being a good manager. And I remember one day I just had to be vulnerable with my leadership team. And I had to just say, listen, I can't be everything to everyone. And I said, I can't be here 24/7. And I had to set boundaries with them in a very real way and say, listen, I am a mom now. I wasn't when I started that job, but now I am. And now I have twins at home. And I cannot be here at 7 a.m. because guess what? Daycare doesn't open until 7:30. So guess what? I cannot be here at 7. And no one who tells you this as a new mom either, Sam, like no one tells you
Oh, by the way, the whole childcare system is not made for working parents, let alone nurses. Okay.
Especially 12-hour shifts.
Yeah, 12-hour shifts. It's just not made for that. So I worked really hard with my leadership team. So where my supervisor came in early, I came in later. And then we worked out a system. But I had to sit down and tell them, okay, I'm not going to be here at this time, but I will be here at this time. And be very transparent with my schedule and what I would be able to do and what I wouldn't be able to do. But it took a lot of me backing down of what I would have done had I not had kids. And I had to really step out of that role and back down and be vulnerable with them and really show them that I'm a person first and a mom now, and my priorities had shifted in order to be good at both things for that time. It's hard to do. It's hard to see yourself in that new role and in that new light, and for others to see that as well. Like Laura, you mentioned, it's taking that back, though. You have to take that back and you have to own that. But it's really hard as a nurse leader, too, to see the nurses that are working with you, see those signs of burnout and try to help them and try to see those signs and symptoms. And I think that's something we don't do a really good job of, is educating our nurse leaders on the signs and symptoms of burnout. And I feel like we could do a better job of that, me speaking as someone who works with nurse leaders. And I think that's something that I would love to do. So thinking of signs and symptoms for nurse burnout, really paying attention to, are they calling in more inconsistently? Are there inconsistencies in work patterns? Is there more emotional outbursts going on? I used to have mid-year check-ins as well as my yearly check-ins with my nurses, and I would just always talk with them about how things were going and things like that. And if things are starting to get to them, then what are the resources, and really understanding what resources are available within the organization and beyond the organization. And then being able to set up a mentorship program or different things and having those available within the unit. So I think that's just really interesting to think about how we can really educate our nurse leaders to look for those symptoms within our nurses, to try to reach out to them before they get so burned out that they leave the profession or have to leave the position. Especially in med-surg, which, as you guys know, patients are not the easiest patients in the world, and often are patients that come back, chronic patients, they're chronically ill, they're coming back over and over again, and they're in and out. You don't make those relationships that you might make with maybe a chronic cardiac patient or a chronic oncology patient or something like that.
Yeah, training those leaders is really key to recognizing those signs. I think we know that there's things that having to do with what makes quality of life, because quality of life is different for everybody. So some people are very extroverted and they love being around people. And there are some people that would rather just go home and be by themselves, but that's what they like. So it's different for everybody. And if for some reason somebody is an introvert and something's going on at home where they don't have that alone time and that time to reconnect with themselves, that's going to come out in some way, shape, or form eventually. Those signs are very, very, very subtle.
I think I'm that nurse Marisa was talking about, because I have 400 hours of PTO. Before my injury, I had like 300 hours of sick leave and then 400 hours of PTO. Maybe I have anti-burnout. Maybe I have burnout and I don't even know it, because I genuinely love it. I love being over there. I love working. It sounds disgusting. I know it sounds so...
But that's exactly what I'm saying, Eric. It's different for everybody.
Yeah. I don't want to be fake and be like, oh, yeah, I understand. But I don't want to seem like, oh, I have it all together. I'm very compartmentalized. Work is work and home is home. And I don't mingle the two. I don't come to work and bring my personal drama. I'm not on my phone at work. I'm not worried about that kind of stuff. And when I clock out, I mean, it's click. I don't take patients home. I have all the things I've learned, of course, but I mean, I don't bring paperwork home. I don't bring drama home, and vice versa. And for me, that's just worked. I mean, I have seen some nurses burn out. I've actually seen it. I've had classmates that I've worked with, and I had one that did less than a week on med-surg. And she said, I don't know how anyone could do this. She said, I can't do this anymore. So I think I thrive on that chaos.
There are people who love to work. I used to work actually at extra shift every week when I worked on the floor. I loved it. But there is that ability when you're there. And then when you move up to like a charge nurse or maybe a clinical coordinator or a manager, that responsibility or that accountability changes and there's a shift. And that ability to burn out, it does shift a little bit, I do believe. Not that the floor nurse doesn't as well, but as a manager, I used to have to watch the nurses that picked up overtime all the time too, though. And I'd be like, hey, you okay? I did check in with them more though, Eric. To your point though, I did say, okay, are you okay picking this up again? I noticed you're picking up an awful lot. Like, how are you? That was how I managed it. Not every manager does that. Managers are like, fantastic, the hole's covered. I don't have to worry about it. You just have to make sure as a nurse, who is the manager you're working for? What type of environment are you in? And I think that's what AMSN tries to work for too, is a healthy practice environment. What is the environment you're in? What's the team? That makes a big difference too, Eric. Like when you're working with a great team, you don't mind picking up the shift. I found that too. When I knew who I was working with, I was like, oh yeah, I'll come in. No problem.
Great point.
Right?
Yeah. I think that's a difficult thing to do, is to recognize when you have a healthy versus an unhealthy work environment. Because over time, if it's continuously unhealthy, that's going to lead to some burnout or some issues.
What's a healthy nursing work environment?
An environment where you feel supported, where you feel like someone actually cares about you. Like Marisa was talking about, does a leader check in on you and make sure that you have used some time off? Have you taken some time off? Have you set any goals? Are you getting the support that you need? When you ask for help, you get a response. When you need some help on the unit, you can either call somebody or wave somebody down and you know someone's going to come to your aid. Those are the kind of things that make your day a little bit easier. Because when you don't have those things, it makes your days a lot harder and a lot longer and a lot more stressful.
Yeah.
Is the unit culture supportive? Is there a toxic environment there? Is there bullying going on, or is there incivility, or is there not? Is there education support? Is there other things that make the culture there? Are your ratios a healthy mix of ratios or acuity-based staffing? Where is that at? And is that appropriate on a day-to-day basis? There's always one-off shifts, but overall, is it appropriate? So there's a lot that goes into that. And we talk about healthy practice environment. There's a lot of pieces that go into that puzzle, but I think those are some of the big pieces that play into what makes your day better overall when you come into work. It's the team, it's the teamwork, it's how you feel. It's also the other things that are supportive within the environment, because we know the patients and the patient population, that's always going to be kind of similar wherever you work, but those added things are different. I've worked a few different places in my life, and that's what's always different. The little they seem little, but they're not. It's those pieces that are going to be different when you work in different places. But when you have a good team, you have a supportive team, you have a supportive environment, and you feel it, there's nothing like that.
It makes you want to come to work. It makes you not dread that alarm going off.
I had a really great clinical instructor when I was in nursing school. It would be our lunch break. She'd say, get off the floor, go down to the cafeteria, go eat outside, go eat in the hallway. I don't care, but somewhere that's not on the unit. Step away from work, because 12 hours is a long time. And even just that 15 minutes, 30 minutes to separate yourself and take a second to be with yourself and not be thinking about work for 12 hours straight is a good reset. Reset, refocus, and then get back to your day. Obviously depends on your patients that day and staffing, which I'm pretty blessed with here at my hospital. Our ratios are low and our staffing is good, but we did a 30-minute stretch the other night. We all went into the nursery and did a 30-minute stretch with the Peloton app, and it was great to just do some deep breathing. And we all had our yoga mats, and we had the light on the little panda warmer, so it's mood lighting, just to reset and think about something other than all the tasks that you have to get done in a 12-hour shift.
That sounds amazing and quite relaxing. So it's good too, especially I think you're working night shift, right, Sydney?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're like trying to stay awake and find something to do. Wellness activities is a great idea.
Yeah, a little bit of exercise. The stretching is nice. Or me and one of my coworkers, when we worked together, we started doing little power hours. So every hour we get up and we do some push-ups and some planks. You know, our military, we do the physical fitness test every year. So we try to stay in shape on night shift, at least when we're snacking the most.
That's awesome. When I worked night shift, one of my best friends from nursing school worked in the ICU and I was in med-surg, and our little wellness trip was down to the cafe to get a milkshake. So the opposite, but probably still effective in terms of wellness and taking a break away from the floor.
Exactly. Getting a break, turning your mind off, little serotonin boost.
Yeah, I had an organization one time that would do these surprise call outs. If they caught you taking a walk around the hospital outside, they celebrated that. If they caught you taking the stairs instead of using the elevator, they celebrated that. And they had these stickers that they would put on your badge. I took care of myself. I got outside, or I took the stairs instead of taking the elevator. But it's just little teeny tiny ways that you can sneak some exercise. You can sneak in something that you do for yourself. It was really fun to see everybody who got those little stickers on their badges. It was fun.
That's a great idea. My last hospital, we had a little healing garden up on the rooftop. And so I'd always make an excuse to take a patient up there. If it was a nice day, I'd be like, hey, do you want to go outside? Because I really want to go outside. Pop in a wheelchair, we'd go up and sit in the sun for a few minutes. And it was just as much for them as it was for me to get a break from the fluorescent lights and some fresh air.
That's wonderful.
If any of you have an opportunity, I talk about nurse wellness. It's about if you have a respite room or if you have an area that you can make into a respite room or to a holistic room. We call them Zen dens.
Yeah, it's called Zen and 10. We have one room on our facility. It's called Zen and 10. It's not a candle, but it's aromatherapy, just gels that sit in there. And there's books and there's music that you can play. And it's just to go sit in there and like take a breather, take a minute for yourself.
Yeah, we've had a lot of different units who have turned parts of rooms or a section of a room or just an area into just a quiet zone. And one is like literally a small closet area. They've turned it into just this little spot to just have a moment. Research has shown it only takes 5 to 10 minutes of time off of the unit to just recharge, to take your mind off of your tasks, to really refocus and to take that moment to yourself. Off stage is what I call it, off stage, where you get time really away. Because really in nursing, you don't have a lot of time off stage because even in the break room, there's other nurses in there. So in the locker room or whatever, there can be other people around. So to really get behind a closed door into like a respite room or a Zen den or whatever holistic room or space, to really have that moment, it really is good for your brain and for your ability to recharge. To be able to do that is really good for your wellness as well when you're at work and to take that moment.
I think where I remember being most successful in being able to take those breaks away from the floor is really trying to reset my mind frame around instead of, oh, my patients have all these things that they need done before I can go do that. It's like, nope, my lunchtime is at 1:00. And so I'm going to make sure I get my patients' tasks done around that, just so that I can prioritize myself and get off the floor and get recharged.
Great tip.
Well, believe it or not, we're just about out of time. But before we go, let's quickly summarize what we've learned. When you're starting to feel burned out, you have to learn to say no and set some boundaries to reclaim some time for yourself. You can't, nor should you try to be there 24/7. Always take full advantage of your paid time off. It's essential to recharge and find balance in your life. If you're a manager, keep an eye out and reach out to those who aren't taking time off that they've earned. Devote some time to thinking about and creating a list of those things that fill your tank back up, and work those things into your daily life. When it comes to balancing family, don't be afraid to be vulnerable and communicate your circumstances with your leadership team to see what you might be able to work out. Look for signs of burnout in your colleagues, such as calling in consistently or more frequent emotional outbursts. You can help them by directing them to the resources available within their hospital designed to help and support them. Take a wellness break when you need a moment to recoup and recharge. Also, promote and conduct wellness activities within your unit. To our listeners, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of MedSurg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
In the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe to MedSurg Moments wherever you listen to podcasts.
To reach us, use hashtag MedSurgMoments on your social posts.
Or send us an email at amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org.
We're all AMSN members, and if you love MedSurg Moments, we invite you to become a member of AMSN. You can learn more at www.amsn.org.
Finally, the content within the MedSurg Moments podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses.
Until next time, this is Eric,
Laura,
Mary Tess.
Neo.
Sam.
And Sydney. And always remember, MedSurg Moments is a moment in our lives and a moment in our MedSurg careers that makes a huge difference.